It's the Let's Talk Polyamory podcast, where we talk about all things consensual non-monogamy, polyamory, swinging, and all things about how you can have a secure and sexy relationship. Now here's your hosts, Tara and Andre. Hey!
How are you? Good.
How are you?
Good. So we're in different locations yet again.
Again.
Keeping it fresh.
Yes, it's super interesting. It almost looks like we're in the same location because the background is very similar color. This is maybe a little bit darker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would look like that. And I guess I'm using natural light, as are you?
Yep.
So I guess we're on the same time zone, in the same time zone. But
we are.
I'm at your place and you're at my place.
I know. It's so interesting. It's perfect for today's topic of part 5 of the 5 ways to reignite the fire in your long-term relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And that topic is doing something different that takes deliberate effort. So here we are doing something different.
Right. So one of the things is to spend some time apart. So that's one of the things that we're doing. But the one that we're doing today, number 5, is about taking deliberate action, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I did my homework. I read up this time. So
awesome.
Can we recap the first 4?
Yeah, let's do a quick recap.
Number 1. So then number 1, let's get right into it. So having some distance and time apart, right?
Exactly.
So we do it. It might happen automatically that we have to do it. But I think with COVID, especially, a lot of people found themselves having an abundance of time together, almost to the point where they might have felt oversaturated in doing so. So we want to go into it with an intention of really finding opportunities to spend a bit of time apart, but also that it might be some level of quality time apart, right? So what are you going to do apart? Well, you could just sit on the couch and lounge. Maybe that's your thing and you haven't had enough time to do that, or that's your thing. You really like doing that. But maybe you might also take the time for a little self-indulgence. You might find time to read your favorite book, to do some exercise, do whatever might turn you on that you feel as though you're not able to do. But also, when I'm doing my thing, I might also give some time to reflect on the little things about being with you that I might have taken for granted otherwise. So having some time apart could be both a demonstration to self, but also how we are wanting to be in our relationship with the other. Yeah.
And I think, like we had some time apart in last week, and then we had a very short reconnection, and now we're apart again. But that reconnection was like really special, and it does really do something, right? Like I felt reinvigorated and excited, and we had a little bit of fun too.
And connecting was charged. There was the anticipation, right? The looking forward to it. And those are by the way, is one of the components, one of the elements that is identified as the definition of happiness, learning something new and having something to look forward to and doing something you love. So it checked off at least 2 of those boxes. The next one is the idea of when we do come together, how can we be present? How can we be more present with our partner, our partners, and also with ourselves, right?
Exactly. And we talked about the 3 types of presence. So being physically present, emotionally present, and sexually present, because they're connected, but they're also very different. So we had a great discussion about that. That was a fun one.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Very quickly, the idea of being sexually present. So somebody just contacted me this morning via email to ask if I might be able to help them because they are having some sexual issues with their level of arousal, right? And, it's not uncommon for both men and women to not feel so connected there, to not be quite as present as they might want to be. And it's definitely something we can help them with. We can find ways to bring ourselves back, to invite ourselves and our partners to be present. And when we are actually very present that way, it really does open up opportunities for greater connection and more satisfaction. So interesting.
Yeah. And I think it's an ongoing practice about being sexually present and learning yourself and your body. I've done some recent exploration and it's really changed how I feel about things. And I think we need to continually do this. So
yeah. And not only have I noticed that it's changed something in you, but it's also changed something in us.
Yeah.
Your relationship
exactly.
with more present. Yeah. It's also affected us as well, which is like win-win, right?
Win-win.
Yeah. And it's a transferable skill. You can take that into your other relationships as well.
For sure. All right. So number 3 was interrupting patterns and routines. So this, I mean, I think the thing about this is actually first realizing that there are routines and patterns that we've fallen into, and then finding ways of interrupting them in fun and playful ways, I'd say.
Right. So recognizing those patterns, I think I was in a pattern in a previous relationship. I wasn't even really aware of it yet, but it was like, when we would come to make love on that scheduled day, it would be, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4. And it was never 4 then 1 and 3. So we both kind of fell into this, and it just became the way, which was satisfactory. It was okay, but found afterwards it could be better than just 1, 3, 4. It was the idea of it being predictable or routine or just kind of standard, mixing it up a little bit. And it's like, that's interesting if we do it that way. So being open to the possibility of these differences and what other way could we be?
I'm smiling because I'm thinking when you say 1, 3, 4, maybe people who maybe aren't Friends fans might not know the reference to when Monica and Rachel were showing Chandler the different parts, arousal parts, and they were going 1 and then 3 and then 4, and he was like, I didn't even know those were parts. So,
right. Well, that's a good point. So we didn't even know those were points. Can we get out of the routine to see what might be outside of the universe, right? And if we don't know, well, let's ask our partner. I didn't know you had a 4 and a 7 and a 9. So there we go. And let it be known as to what you might want as well, right? Or do we feel comfortable announcing what it is we're wanting and not wanting?
Yeah, exactly. Like one of the fun activities we have in our erotic exotic staycation transformation is a mapping of an activity where you'll map your partner's body after a specific activity we're going to get people to do. So that's kind of exciting. So we'll know where all those numbers are.
Are we going to map it with crayons or with permanent marker?
Well, I think the idea is discovering it on the body and then actually drawing it out.
I love that idea. Well, it really heightens our awareness to it, right? So we've observed it, we've absorbed it, and now we are transferring it and demonstrating it. So I think it's a fantastic exercise. Very cool.
Exactly. And then finally, number 4 that we talked about was increasing sexual and erotic energy. So we talked about 5 things that people can do. So first, discovering what arouses you, living out fantasies, introducing more spontaneity. I guess you don't introduce spontaneity, you just have spontaneity. Having something to look forward.
Could you challenge yourself to be more spontaneous?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think sometimes I myself suffer from like I can't do it now syndrome, and you're really good at pulling me out of that sometimes and saying like, let's do this fun thing, and it's always rewarding. So yeah, so you can definitely challenge yourself to be more spontaneous.
So you have a difficult time perhaps saying, can I do it now? And maybe I have a more difficult time delaying the gratification. So together, I think it works quite well.
Yeah, probably. I think it does. So having something to look forward to, which I mentioned. And then finally, today's topic.
Trying something new and different.
Yeah. So doing something different that takes deliberate effort. This is like number 5 of the ways to increase the eroticism in your relationship and reignite the fire, or keep the fire lit, stoke it.
So where do we go to find something new? I'm totally willing. Okay, yeah, let's do it. But what are we going to do that's new? What are we going to do? Where do we go to find these new things? What's it going to look like?
Oh, for sure. Well, I want to get into that, but I do want to say one thing, because I know we've said this before here, and people have heard me talk about manifestation and the universe. And so, when I say do something different and take deliberate effort, it doesn't mean that we can't call out to the universe and ask for what it is we want and manifesting things. But I think the point being is the universe doesn't help if we just sit there waiting for it, like the desire and fire to increase. We have to continually take action, and then that allows the universe to provide the things that we want. So we take the initial action. Yeah. I mean, part of it is speaking it out loud. And I think once you speak it out loud, then you start to take action. There's a book your mom lent me. I can't remember what it's called right now. And it's based on that premise exactly. So, but let's talk about what deliberate action is first. All right. What is deliberate action? So would you like me to answer, or would you like to answer? Yeah, I'd love to hear it from you. I have it in the notes, but I'd like to hear I'd like to hear you articulate it, please. Okay, well, if you do something that is deliberate, it's about planning or deciding to do something beforehand. and so that it happens on purpose rather than by chance. So not waiting chance, but actually doing things with purpose.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Totally,
And then when you combine deliberate action with doing something different, this is a great way to change things up in your relationship. And that's why like the two are kind of like together.
Right. Yeah. So I think I understand it. So I think that something could be different or better. I want to get in shape, but I just say, oh, I want to get in shape. I don't really do much about it. Whereas my deliberate action is I want to get in shape. So I'm going to sign up at the gym. I'm going to put on my sweatpants. I'm going to roll up my yoga mat. I'm going to go for a walk. So I take that deliberate action towards the thing that I say I might be wanting.
Yeah, exactly. I think exercise is a great analogy for that. It's like, you know, you may have your habits in check and you may do the same thing, the same amount every day. And then maybe you change up your workout. Like that's what I do. And the intensity you keep about the same. But then if you do that, what happens if nothing changes? Well, like you said, you stay the same and maintain the status quo. And that's fine if you're already in shape and that's what you want to do. But if your goal is something more, if your goal is to be stronger, or if you've hit a plateau, for example, then that's when you have to do something different. Just like you say about signing up for the gym or increasing the intensity of your workout or doing more activities, that sort of thing. And I think the same holds true in our relationships with our partners. So if the current state isn't what you want it to be, doing the same things over and over again isn't going to get you a different result. So, and this is also especially true in our sex lives.
Right. Especially true in our sex lives.
Well, it's definitely true in our sex lives. I think it's true in all aspects of our life, but sure. I think we're talking about desire and fire and eroticism and sexuality here. So I think this idea of like doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is not going to happen with our sex lives if we don't take that deliberate action.
Right. You know, it's interesting. I honed in on the word saying especially, and I thought, well, what might make it especially so to our sex life? And I wonder if part of it is that if I want to get in shape, I kind of see myself as being the catalyst who's going to do it. If I'm going to go for a run, I generally run alone or whatever. Even if I'm in a class of yoga, I might do it alone, but I'm the one that has to do it. But in a relationship, especially for a couple, do I kind of consciously or otherwise defer to my partner to be the one who's going to make these things happen, right? So it doesn't sound very deliberate. Again, I'm kind of hoping that they'll be the one who are going to be the catalyst, as opposed to saying, well, you know, what could be my part in it? How could I be that catalyst? What solution might I offer? What alternative might I offer? So could I come to it with something as an option and see how that affects the situation?
Yeah, I love that idea. Yeah, good point. Is like, where do I play a role? Like, I just can't sit there waiting for you or another partner to take action. I need to also take action myself. So I love that.
And it's empowering, right? So when we do that, we feel like, well, I'm not just a passive passenger. I'm an active participant. I'm the driver of my vehicle, and I decide where I want to go with it.
Exactly. Yeah, I love it. I'm all about empowerment. I love taking action, but I'm an action taker. I mean, I've been doing more action lately. It's like sometimes we get in a bit of a slump and it's hard to make that first jump. And so I like to think, and I tell my clients this all the time, is like, what one imperfect action can you take today that will move you a little closer to where you want to be? You know,
imperfect action.
Imperfect
action.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, I think sometimes we wait to make the perfect action or the perfect time or the grand gesture or the massive action. And those things are all great, but sometimes it takes a little fire under our behinds to get us there. And it can seem overwhelming. So I think sometimes if you think about it in terms of like, what small thing I can do that seems doable, then once you do that, the next thing seems doable and the next thing seems doable. You know what I mean? And, you know, I use this in both I do some health and fitness coaching, but I also do my relationship and life coaching as well. And I use the same concept in both, but it is sometimes hard to take that first action, especially if you're a bit of a perfectionist too.
Right.
Yeah.
So it makes me think about the idea of taking the action then and turning over the results. So maybe it doesn't have to be perfect. We just we're focused more on the idea that we simply took the action, right? We did that one thing, and whether it is the end all is secondary, but it's just the idea that we showed up, we suited up, and we took that action.
Yeah, and taking that action and taking that as a win. You know what I mean? Even if it isn't the big thing, or it doesn't turn out the way we expect, we've taken that action, something's happened, and we either get exactly what we want, or a little bit of what we want, or we learn something in the process. So it's always a win. So I like to think in those terms, and
awesome.
It serves me well, in my life. So you had started in on what can doing something different and deliberate action look like? Okay.
I'm sorry. Are you wanting me to say something about that?
No. You had, before we sort of went, I talked about the universe. You had started asking the question. So what can it look like? So I mean, I can start. So doing something different and taking deliberate action can look like planning something to do together and look forward to. I think you mentioned that at the beginning. So I mean, one of the things that we love to do, and I think that definitely sort of like lights our fire again, is planning a trip.
Right. Oh yeah, for sure. Travel is wonderful, right? We can kind of like just check ourselves at the threshold and then go off. But if we're not able to do an actual physical trip for whatever reasons, there are other trips that we can take, even a trip to the park, just anything that kind of disrupts the status quo, right?
Exactly.
And that's kind of the next one, about the idea of changing things up, right? So it's almost like that idea of how we save money. So if we think that we're just going to pay our bills and then whatever's left over we'll put towards savings, it might work out that way, but often it doesn't really culminate in our saving anything. Whereas if we take 5 or 10% off the top, save it, and then live on the 90%, somehow it works. And I think the same thing is demonstrated very often in the way that we relate. So my morning alarm goes off and boom, I hit the ground running, and I've got to go this, do that, and the other thing. And if there's any time left over at the end of the day, if we're not too tired, or maybe sometimes even if we're tired, we'll go at it. And it's kind of like, I'm tired, you're tired, and maybe, you know what, let's just go to bed, and like we'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
That tends to be setting ourselves up for a little bit of paying ourselves at the end if anything's left over. Whereas the other way, we might consider allocating some time where, when we're making our schedules, we put ourselves first. We say, well, you know what, this is important. I'm going to do this, and I'll try and build my schedule around it. And we found what works really well for us is if we can allocate some time in the morning. Maybe it's not always possible every morning, but there are times when we can look at our agenda, our calendar, and say, well, here's something, and we go to it with intention because it's important for us. So we allow for that time, and hopefully not when we're too tired or too taxed or too overwhelmed, but we prioritize it, and we find, you know what, there is time to connect, and we do connect, and it's wonderful. So
awesome.
Yeah, so that's good.
So we also mentioned trying something new, and picked this picture for today's promo. So you'll remember that's us in Portugal at that amazing off-grid organic farm. And, we took a chance and tried that out. You know what I mean? We diverted off our route. You found the place, and we intended to only stay there a day, but fell in love with the space. We stayed in a yurt. We herded goats. You know what I mean? We just had this totally different experience than we had anticipated. So, and then it set the tone for the rest of our trip.
Sure. So trying something new, but being open to trying something new. Go outside of your comfort zone. Yeah, because I think before that, we might have tended to say, well, what's it going to be like? I don't know, and the whole deal. And we might not have allowed ourselves for that expression, but we had the openness of it and found out that it was wonderful. So that's pretty cool. And the next thing is trying something old. Something new. And you brought up the wonderful idea of even going back to where we first started dating. So might we even do it in the car, for example? Which why would we possibly do it in the car? It's so uncomfortable, it's so small, it's so cramped, and maybe that is just the thing, right? So it's kind of like you're going to have to do some problem solving there. It's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. It's going to be a little bit old and familiar, whatever it is, but we're thinking outside of the box. We're going to allow for that other expression. So that's pretty cool. Go to something old.
Yeah, I'm smiling because I'm thinking about this past weekend, and you stopped at my parents' place, and we were like sneaking little kisses and stuff in the kitchen. And, it's like, ooh, I'm at my parents' house and I'm like sneaking little kisses. It felt like it really charged us up, like got us excited, because it's like sort of this forbidden thing,
It's
even though
taboo,
we're
yeah.
adults. But we couldn't take it any further. So it was kind of fun. So that's like the kind of like doing something old.
Well, what also was kind of cool is that there was no pressure to have it go any further. There was no expectation that it was going to be the big, thing. We could just fool around and have fun with that. But yeah, the idea that it was restricted and taboo and in public, I mean, there were a whole bunch of elements that were rather titillating. So that was quite fun.
Exactly. And then the last one of the 5 things that you could do is rediscovering each other again.
Through sensual touch, through sensory play. And again, that makes me think back to the idea of when I was doing yoga not too long ago, and I did a pyramid pose, and I came to the realization that my fingers were touching myself just below my ankle. And I thought, when's the last time I touched you in that little spot? Have I ever touched you in that little spot? Could I touch you again in that little spot? So that we might have been able to go to rediscover ourselves and our partner, invite our partners to discover us, and they might invite us to discover. So this beautiful opportunity to exchange each other's energies, to be invited to invite, all that. It's magical. It's wonderful.
Are you going to do some rediscovering of yourself while you're there, while we're apart?
I think that might be an opportunity to do some. Yeah, spend some quality time with myself. But I know you're being a little bit cheeky and suggesting that it might be sexual. But I think for me, the sexual part is fun. But I think I'm pretty well aware of a lot of my sexual aspects. I think I'm going to see if I can go more towards my emotional, intellectual, sexual side and see where that, where are the frontiers where I feel less explored, and see what new discoveries I might be able to make.
Ooh, I love that. Do you have any thoughts yet, or?
Well, I was thinking that maybe I might consider different scenarios and then find the ones that are most appealing, don't do those, and find the ones that are the least appealing and see if I can go to those and see if I could rediscover them, open myself up to the possibility of it. We'll see.
Ooh,
I'll have to keep you posted.
Ooh, I can't wait to hear about that. Awesome. Okay, that's great. Well, we wanted to keep this one short and simple today. So I think what we'd love people to do is to ask yourself today and throughout the week, what is something different that I can take deliberate action on that will ramp up the erotic fire in my long-term relationship, either with myself or with a partner or partners. So we'd love to know your ideas for people to put them right in the group and start a discussion. I think that would be great, because I think sometimes people are looking for ideas, and I love seeing like all the back and forth and how different people relate differently and how they come to being open or polyamorous. It's pretty exciting.
And I love that sense of community where people do come together. And that is the reason why we made this Let's Talk Poly thing, right? Because we were on the beach, COVID was coming, and we wanted to find a way of staying connected to our friends and our lovers, our family. So thank you, Tara. You put together this part. It really is you that did that. But it was also an opportunity for people, friends of friends and community, like-minded people, to come together and have a forum, have a safe place where we could talk to each other, connect, feel connected, and just normalize our human experience. So please, it's yours. Participate in it, love it, enjoy it. Always be respectful, which we are. And I'm so glad we all come together like this.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I just want to say too, we are here to support. We're always here in the background in the group, but also available if you need to reach out and talk some more. Our calendars have time in them set aside. So I do calls with people every week. I love talking to people. And, I always want to make sure that if you take the time to talk to us, that you'll come away with at least one thing that you can do, like that next deliberate action that you can take that will take you from being stuck in whatever it is that's going on, and then move you closer to where you want to be. So that's always available to you. We'll drop the link in here, but we always have the link as well on our website. So don't hesitate to reach out. It's a free call. We love talking to you. So I just want to make sure people know that.
Awesome.
Yeah. And everyone, we can't wait to hear about your deliberate actions. And reach out if you need help.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Andre.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
If you want to explore polyamory, open up a relationship, or try your hand at swinging, we can help. Check out our website at taraandandre.com for information on our Poly Newbies
digital course, or our deeper dive open relationship and polyamory mastery program where you get direct coaching from us. There's also other individual and couples coaching options there as well.
Thanks for listening to the Let's Talk Polyamory podcast with TNA. Don't forget to subscribe and give us some love on your favorite podcasting platform. You can check out the show notes for any of the links to the courses or information we talked about today. Thanks and have a fantastic